Hey guys, tonight we're slipping under the thatched roofs of medieval villages, where dreams and drafts dance together just inches above your head. You're not lying on memory foam tonight. No. Tonight, it's a mattress stuffed with straw, possibly shared with lice, siblings, and secrets. The wind sneaks through the gaps in the walls, the floor creaks beneath someone's midnight footsteps, and the scent of smoke lingers long after the hearth has died down. Sleep, in this world, is not a luxury. It's survival, and it happens wherever there's space, or at least less rats. You sure you'd survive? Honestly? Just trying to fall asleep with chickens roosting above your head and someone snoring like a dying bagpipe 2 feet away would probably send most of us running back to our duvets. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, let me know in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you? Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You blink slowly, your eyes adjusting to the dimness of a cramped room with no glass windows, just wooden shutters cracked, open to the breeze and the smell of livestock. The ceiling above you is low, just a few feet higher than your head, and it's not made of beams and drywall. No, this is densely packed straw, layered over wooden slats, designed to keep the rain mostly out and the heat mostly in. Here it's called thatching, and it's the medieval version of insulation, surprisingly effective unless, of course, it rains sideways, which it often does. You shift slightly on your bed, a word we're being generous with. It's a sack of straw tied with rough cloth, flattened from years of use. You feel a lump beneath your hip, probably a rock, or a beetle, or last week's turnip. The pillow? It's just your arm, or maybe a bundle of your outer tunic. And blankets? If you're lucky, a woven woolen cloth that smells like damp barn. Because it probably was in a barn once. The space is shared. There's no such thing as a room of one's own unless you're incredibly wealthy. And even then, privacy was more of a concept than a real architectural feature. Tonight you're sleeping in the loft above your family's one-room home, right next to the grain sacks and under the same roof as your parents, siblings, and maybe even the chickens. Because yes, sometimes animals were brought inside and for warmth and, well, theft prevention. And while you're curled up trying to ignore your brother's foot nudging your ribs, you wonder, did people really sleep like this every night? Yes, and sometimes worse. Most peasants didn't own much furniture, so they made do. The word bed could mean a space on the floor near the fire or even a spot in the hayloft. You might rotate with others. Whoever finished the late shift at the fields gets the warm spot. You might sleep sitting upright to avoid the draft from the door. Or if you're a servant, you might curl up under a staircase, on a bench, or next to the kitchen hearth. Here's the weird thing, it wasn't seen as tragic. It was just normal. People had a different relationship with comfort. You weren't supposed to sleep too soft or too long. In fact, religious texts warned against laziness of the body, and a soft bed was suspicious. Some folks even believed that lying flat made you vulnerable to demonic dreams. So if your back hurt from sleeping on straw, great. That meant your soul was probably safe. Oddly enough, straw was prized not just for padding but for its smell. People thought it helped with digestion and sleep. Sometimes they even mixed it with herbs, lavender, rosemary, or thyme, though more often it was just leftover livestock fodder, which might still smell earthy. And speaking of earthy, there's no plumbing. So in the middle of the night, if you had to go, you either used the chamber pot, conveniently placed under the bed, or in less lucky homes, you simply headed outside. Imagine that on a freezing night, with no lantern and owls hooting in the dark. The cold alone would wake you up so fast you wouldn't need coffee the next morning. Not that they had coffee. One little known fact: the thatched roof above you wasn't just for insulation. It was a danger zone. Birds nested in it, bugs bred in it, and in summer the dried straw could catch fire frighteningly easily. That's why in many towns candles were banned in upper sleeping lofts. And why bedtime stories often included real-life cautionary tales about that one neighbor who accidentally set his whole roof alight trying to read psalms in bed. Historians still debate just how common those upper loft sleeping spaces were, especially in different regions and seasons. Some argue they were rare luxuries, while others say they were standard for any household with enough space and straw. But there's no doubt that when people did sleep in them, it came with the thrill of height and the anxiety of waking up in a smoky pile of hay. And hey, remember that saying, sleep tight? It comes from the practice of tying rope, lattices beneath a mattress to support it. If you were lucky enough to have a rope bed frame, someone had to tighten it regularly so it wouldn't sag. So yes, the next time someone wishes you a good night's sleep, imagine crawling into a lumpy sack, under a leaky roof, next to your cousin who snores like a church bell. You roll over, trying not to think about the mice scratching somewhere, behind the grain barrel. Your eyelids grow heavier. The fire downstairs has died to embers, and the sounds of the household settle into muffled breathing and the occasional shift of straw. Above, the thatched roof creaks, a reminder that your world is one layer of straw away from the sky, and somehow that you're finally drifting off. You awaken again, but this time to the sound of bells, not the delicate kind that tells you the hour, but something heavier, slower. A church bell. It echoes through the chilly air, its tone lingering like fog across the village. It's dawn, or nearly so. And like clockwork, although actual clocks are rare, the village begins to stir. You shift under your blanket or what's left of it. Someone has tugged it halfway off you during the night, probably the same person who kicked you in there. Sleep. You sigh and sit up, your back aching in a way that feels suspiciously permanent. But there's no time to complain. In medieval life, mornings don't come with coffee. They come with obligations. Before you've even had a chance to wipe the sleep from your eyes, someone's already outside feeding the animals, someone else is hauling water from the communal well, and the baker's apprentice, probably younger than you, has been up for hours preparing the day's bread. The world doesn't wait for you to hit snooze. You clamber down from the loft, careful not to step on the family dog, who grumbles from under a bench. The fire in the hearth is just embers now, and someone's already added kindling to coax it back to life. If you're lucky, you might get a warm broth for breakfast, barley, onion, maybe a scrap of last night's stew. If you're not lucky, it's cold porridge, again. As you eat, you glance at the corner of the room, at the holy image pinned above the hearth. Every home, no matter how poor, keeps some token of faith in sight, a crucifix, a saint's icon, or a scrap of scripture. Because today, like every day, is soaked in religion. You won't just work today, you'll pray too, a lot. Not just before meals, but at certain hours depending on who you are and where you live. The church bell is your timekeeper. It tolls for matins, lauds, prime, terce, and so on. The rhythm of prayer segments the day more reliably than any clock. And it's not just you. The whole village revolves around the church, your calendar, your rest days, even your dreams. There's no such thing as secular life, not in the way you know it. Everything is seen through the lens of God, saints, and sin. You might be poor, you might be tired, but at least you know your suffering has cosmic purpose. Comforting in a strange, exhausting way. Now here's a fun detail. People didn't always kneel to pray. If your knees are aching from the floorboards, don't worry. Standing prayer was common. Arms outstretched, feet together, eyes closed, and if you're sick or elderly, you get to pray lying down. Perks. Some medieval folks even tried to sleep in holy positions, believing it brought them closer to God. A few monks would sleep in the shape of a cross, arms spread out, back flat, refusing cushions or comfort. Others sat upright in wooden boxes, nodding off like tired commuters on a bus. Spiritual discomfort was considered admirable. You, meanwhile, are just trying not to fall asleep during morning mass. And speaking of mass, it's in Latin. Unless you know your paternosters and Ave Marias, you'll mostly be listening in reverent confusion. But it's not about understanding. It's about presence, being there, being humble, being reminded over and over that this life is temporary and the next one is forever, which really helps when your breakfast is half a turnip and your roof leaks. You glance around the room. The sun is higher now. Light spills through the open doorway, catching dust in golden beams. The chickens have wandered into the house again. Someone shoos them out half-heartedly. And in the middle of this everyday chaos, you remember one of the strangest, most specific things about medieval mornings. People didn't bathe often, but they were obsessed with the idea of spiritual cleanliness. You might be coated in sweat, mud and soot, but as long as your soul was polished, you were fine. Washing the body too frequently was seen as vain, even dangerous. Doctors warned that water could weaken the body's heat and open your pores to disease. Which, okay, fair, considering the river was downstream from a tannery and a pig pen. Still, people did wash, occasionally. A quick wipe with a damp cloth, a rinse of hands and face, maybe a foot bath. Communal bathhouses existed in towns, but they were more like social clubs. And, well, let's just say they got very social. So in villages like yours, cleanliness was more about appearances and smell management than actual hygiene. Instead of soap, you might rub your hands with rosemary or rinse with vinegar. For teeth, you might chew mint or sage. And for deodorant, powdered herbs or nothing at all. After all, everyone smelled. It was part of the ambience. You take one last bite of your cold porridge. Someone opens the shutters wider. A rooster crows. The day has begun. But even as the village stirs to life, you can't help but feel the weight of the night still clinging to you. The rhythm of sleep and wakefulness. The silent prayers in the dark. The dreams you can't quite remember, but that still sit heavy on your chest. And historians still argue about how much of this daily pattern was universal. Were segmented sleep and holy routines just for devout Europe, or were they broader? Did every peasant pray before breakfast, or just the ones near monasteries? The documents disagree, but what's certain is this. Mornings weren't about leisure, they were about duty, and as you step outside, blinking at the rising sun, you know the work is about to begin. Long, hard physical work that will stretch your limbs and stiffen your joints, all before noon. But for now, there's still a trace of cool in the air, and the light is soft. You take a deep breath, and somewhere, behind you, the bells ring again. You awaken again, but this time to the sound of bells. Not the delicate kind that tells you the hour, but something heavier, slower. A church bell. It echoes through the chilly air, its tone lingering like fog across the village. It's dawn, or nearly so. And like clockwork, although actual clocks are rare, the village begins to stir. You shift under your blanket or what's left of it. Someone has tugged it halfway off you during the night, probably the same person who kicked you in there. Sleep. You sigh and sit up, your back aching in a way that feels suspiciously permanent. But there's no time to complain. In medieval life, mornings don't come with coffee. They come with obligations. Before you've even had a chance to wipe the sleep from your eyes, someone's already outside feeding the animals, someone else is hauling water from the communal well, and the baker's apprentice, probably younger than you, has been up for hours preparing the day's bread. The world doesn't wait for you to hit snooze. You clamber down from the loft, careful not to step on the family dog, who grumbles from under a bench. The fire in the hearth is just embers now, and someone's already added kindling to coax it back to life. If you're lucky, you might get a warm broth for breakfast, barley, onion, maybe a scrap of last night's stew. If you're not lucky, it's cold porridge, again. As you eat, you glance at the corner of the room, at the holy image pinned above the hearth. Every home, no matter how poor, keeps some token of faith in sight, a crucifix, a saint's icon, or a scrap of scripture. Because today, like every day, is soaked in religion. You won't just work today, you'll pray too, a lot. Not just before meals, but at certain hours depending on who you are and where you live. The church bell is your timekeeper. It tolls for matins, lauds, prime, terce, and so on. The rhythm of prayer segments the day more reliably than any clock. And it's not just you. The whole village revolves around the church, your calendar, your rest days, even your dreams. There's no such thing as secular life, not in the way you know it. Everything is seen through the lens of God, saints, and sin. You might be poor, you might be tired, but at least you know your suffering has cosmic purpose. Comforting in a strange, exhausting way. Now here's a fun detail. People didn't always kneel to pray. If your knees are aching from the floorboards, don't worry. Standing prayer was common. Arms outstretched, feet together, eyes closed, and if you're sick or elderly, you get to pray lying down. Perks. Some medieval folks even tried to sleep in holy positions, believing it brought them closer to God. A few monks would sleep in the shape of a cross, arms spread out, back flat, refusing cushions or comfort. Others sat upright in wooden boxes, nodding off like tired commuters on a bus. Spiritual discomfort was considered admirable. You, meanwhile, are just trying not to fall asleep during morning mass. And speaking of mass, it's in Latin. Unless you know your paternosters and Ave Marias, you'll mostly be listening in reverent confusion. But it's not about understanding. It's about presence, being there, being humble, being reminded over and over that this life is temporary and the next one is forever, which really helps when your breakfast is half a turnip and your roof leaks. You glance around the room. The sun is higher now. Light spills through the open doorway, catching dust in golden beams. The chickens have wandered into the house again. Someone shoos them out half-heartedly. And in the middle of this everyday chaos, you remember one of the strangest, most specific things about medieval mornings. People didn't bathe often, but they were obsessed with the idea of spiritual cleanliness. You might be coated in sweat, mud and soot, but as long as your soul was polished, you were fine. Washing the body too frequently was seen as vain, even dangerous. Doctors warned that water could weaken the body's heat and open your pores to disease. Which, okay, fair, considering the river was downstream from a tannery and a pig pen. Still, people did wash, occasionally. A quick wipe with a damp cloth, a rinse of hands and face, maybe a foot bath. Communal bathhouses existed in towns, but they were more like social clubs. And, well, let's just say they got very social. So in villages like yours, cleanliness was more about appearances and smell management than actual hygiene. Instead of soap, you might rub your hands with rosemary or rinse with vinegar. For teeth, you might chew mint or sage. And for deodorant, powdered herbs or nothing at all. After all, everyone smelled. It was part of the ambience. You take one last bite of your cold porridge. Someone opens the shutters wider. A rooster crows. The day has begun, but even as the village stirs to life, you can't help but feel the weight of the night still clinging to you, the rhythm of sleep and wakefulness, the silent prayers in the dark, the dreams you can't quite remember, but that still sit heavy on your chest. And historians still argue about how much of this daily pattern was universal. Were segmented sleep and holy routines just for devout Europe, or were they broader? Did every peasant pray before breakfast, or just the ones near monasteries? The documents disagree, but what's certain is this. Mornings weren't about leisure, they were about duty, and as you step outside, blinking at the rising sun, you know the work is about to begin. Long, hard physical work that will stretch your limbs and stiffen your joints, all before noon. But for now, there's still a trace of cool in the air, and the light is soft. You take a deep breath, and somewhere, behind you, the bells ring again. By now the village is fully awake. Smoke rises from crooked chimneys, roosters strut like they own the place, and the smell of baking bread mingles with the not-so-gentle aroma of manure and wet wool. You step into it all, adjusting your tunic, and wondering if today's the day your left boot finally falls apart completely. Welcome to the daily grind of medieval life, but forget whatever Instagram version of rustic you've seen. This isn't an aesthetic, it's survival. Your day starts with labor, back-breaking, repetitive, utterly necessary labor. If you're lucky enough to be a free peasant, you work your own land. Small, stubborn patches of soil that produce just enough to keep you from starving. If you're less lucky, you're a serf, which means part of everything you grow or make goes straight to the lord of the manor. Rent in wheat, taxes in eggs. You're basically paying your landlord in omelettes. And then there's corvée labor, those extra days where you're required to work the lord's fields instead of your own. Imagine having to mow your boss's lawn before you're allowed to mow your own, and if you don't, there are fines, or worse. So you start with a hoe in your hand or a scythe, or a heavy yoke strapped across your shoulders, carrying water or bundles of wood. Your hands are already calloused. Your back? It gave up complaining months ago, and if you're wondering how you get anything done with that many aches and no espresso, here's the secret. You take naps. Yes, really. Short ones. In the field, in the shade, even sitting upright on a hay cart. Midday rest was built into the rhythm of things. Not because medieval life was easy, but because it was exhausting. Also, your day isn't structured into 9 to 5. Instead, it flows with the sunlight. You work from dawn until dusk, but not in a single marathon. There are pauses. You stop, to sharpen tools. You chat with neighbors. You scratch at the flea bites crawling along your calves. It's a slower urgency, if that makes sense. Oh, and you're not alone. Children work too. A 6-year-old might be out chasing crows from the fields with a rattle. An 8-year-old might be helping to thatch roofs. Childhood, as you know. It hasn't been invented yet. You're small? Good. That means you can reach into places adults can't. Welcome to the team. And here's a weird detail. Left-handedness was discouraged. If you show signs of being a lefty, someone will probably tie your hand or correct you. The left was the sinister side, literally. The word sinister comes from Latin for left. So if you instinctively hold your rake wrong, don't, just smile and nod. Sometime mid-morning the bell rings again, not for prayer this time but to mark meal break. You gather with others under a tree or beside the field, unwrap a piece of rough bread. Maybe some cheese if you're lucky. If it's a feast day, there might even be sausage. If not, turnips. Again. And here's the fun part. People shared meals. Communally passing food around, talking, arguing, laughing. There's a lot of singing. Someone might have a bone flute or a rebec, think early violin, and play a tune while the others chew. Life was hard, but the joy was loud when it came. But of course, joy didn't protect you from the worst parts of the day. The punishments, for one. Justice was immediate, public, and theatrical. A late worker might be tied to a post for public shaming. A thief could lose a hand, gossip too much, and you might be forced to wear a scold's bridle, an iron cage around your head with a metal tongue to suppress your own. Effective? Yes. Subtle? Not remotely. And yet, people lived through it, adapted to. It found meaning and mischief in it. There are records of pranks between neighbors, of romantic trysts in haylofts, of fake ghosts made out of laundry and sticks to scare each other at dusk. It wasn't all misery, it was life, messy and full. Also, medieval people were a little superstitious about work. You might refuse to plant on certain days because they were unlucky. You might refuse to harvest if the wind blew from the east. You'd carry charms, rabbit paws, herbs, carved bone. Not for beauty, but to ward off spirits or bad humors. And if your crop failed, it might be because your neighbor cursed you with the evil eye. Better leave a bowl of milk at the crossroads, just in case. Historians still debate how widespread these beliefs were. Some say it was common folklore. Others argue most people were too busy staying alive to bother with. Magical thinking. But tell that to the guy burying a horse skull under his house for good luck. You finish your second stretch of work as the sun climbs high. Your arms ache, your stomach growls, and sweat soaks through your tunic. But there's pride too. You did things. You turned earth. You grew food. You built. And as the light begins to soften and the heat fades, you know the evening is coming. And with it a little peace, maybe. But for now someone calls your name, the chickens are out again, and one's trying to peck at the laundry. You sigh, pick up a stick, and chase them back to the coop. The day isn't over yet. Evening settles over the village like a well-worn blanket, scratchy in some places, oddly comforting in others. The sun dips behind the hills, and everything begins to dim into that quiet orange-gray haze. You've made it through another day, and for a moment it almost feels peaceful, until someone starts yelling about goats in the herb garden. You ignore it. That's tomorrow's problem. Right now it's time for the most sacred part of medieval life, dinner. Except dinner isn't always what you'd hope for. For most people, it's the second of two meals, the first being late morning or noonish, and this one just before darkness swallows everything. You gather with your household around a long table or just the floor, depending on how fancy your situation is. No forks, not yet. You eat with spoons, knives, and your fingers, always the right hand, of course, because the left hand, well, let's just say people had other uses for that hand, especially in a world without toilet paper. Tonight's menu: barley stew with onion, maybe a bit of dried fish if someone made a good trade. There's bread, always bread, but it's coarse, dense, and tastes vaguely like the inside of a boot. If you're lucky, someone scraped a little lard on it. Luxury. You eat quickly, but not without talk. Dinner is also story time. Someone recounts what the priest said in his sermon. Someone else swears they saw a fox stealing eggs again. A child retells a legend about a knight who fought a dragon but got scared of a goose. Laughter rises. Even the old man who hasn't spoken all day grins through missing teeth, and then someone, usually the eldest, clears their throat. You know what's coming. The ghost stories, because medieval people love to scare the ever-loving daylight out of each other, especially before bed. Tonight it's about a headless nun who wanders the woods, crying blood and praying for her lost veil. A boy swears he saw her, swears she whispered his name. Everyone gasps. Someone clutches their charm tighter. You try to laugh, but now you're not sure if that shadow outside the window is just a tree. And here's the twist. People actually believed in these stories, not just for fun, but as real explanations for real things. Didn't sleep well? Must have been a spirit sitting on your chest. Cows won't give milk, probably cursed, wake up with bruises. A night hag was riding you in your sleep. It sounds wild now, but when you've got no internet, no reliable science, and no electricity, folklore becomes logic. It's all you have. And bedtime. It doesn't come with pajamas and herbal tea. It comes with chores once again. You bank the fire carefully, covering the coals with ash to keep them warm until morning. You check the shutters, maybe sprinkle salt at the threshold just in case something uninvited tries to come in. Your bed, if you're lucky, is a straw mattress shared with at least one other person. Probably more. Privacy is a myth, and that romantic image of a four-poster bed with curtains, that's for the nobles. You, on the other hand, are mastering the fine art of not elbowing your cousin in the face while trying to sleep. You blow out the tallow candle. The room plunges into shadow, and then comes the weird part. You don't actually sleep through the night. Most people in the medieval world followed a pattern called segmented sleep. You'd go to bed after sunset, sleep for a few hours, then wake up for sometime around midnight, and just be awake for an hour or two. You'd talk, think, pray, maybe have a snack, or even sneak off for a rendezvous. Then you'd go back to sleep until morning. Historians are still debating exactly how widespread segmented sleep was, but the records are full of references to first sleep and second sleep. It wasn't insomnia, it was expected. The night was not one long unconscious block, but a time divided, with a pause right in the middle for thought or worry or quiet. Tonight, you lie in the dark, listening to the breathing around you. The room smells like smoke and straw and people. Your back itches. Someone is snoring. A child whispers a question into the dark. Someone else murmurs a half answer, then rolls over. You close your eyes, and a thought creeps in. You didn't say your final prayer. You sit up slightly, whisper a few words to the Virgin, and make the sign of the cross over your chest, just in case, because in this world death is never far away. A bad cut, a cough, a pregnancy, anything could end you. So you pray, not out of habit, but out of necessity. It's your last defense, your nightly insurance policy. And eventually, sleep returns. Outside, an owl hoots, a dog barks. The stars shine cold above the thatch roofs. The village sleeps, half dreaming, half alert, always prepared to wake again. And so do you. Morning again. But not the golden, peaceful morning you might imagine. No, this one arrives with a burst of cold air through the cracks in the wall, a sore neck, and the unmistakable thump of a chicken hopping onto someone's face. You sit up groggily, surrounded by a tangle of limbs, blankets, and a cousin, who somehow ended up sleeping sideways. And then you hear it. Church bells. Again. Because today isn't just any day. It's Sunday. And that changes everything. Into the medieval world, the church is not just religion. It's the calendar, the law, the news channel, the social media feed, and your one reliable excuse to stop working for a day. Sundays are sacred, literally. You're not allowed to plow, sow, shear, or even knead dough. Though, let's be honest, most folks found sneaky ways around that if the priest wasn't looking. You splash your face with cold water from the basin, rub the sleep from your eyes, and put on your best tunic, meaning the one with only 2 patches instead of 5. Cleanish, sort of. Then you walk, everyone does, down the dusty path to the parish church. It's not a grand cathedral. It's small, often made of stone or even wood, maybe leaning a little. The inside smells like incense and damp earth. Candles flicker. The altar is simple. The priest? A familiar face, maybe grumpy, maybe kind, always slightly mysterious. Mass is in Latin. You don't speak Latin, almost no one does, but that doesn't matter. The ritual is familiar. You stand, kneel, mumble prayers you've learned by sound, not meaning. You watch the priest's gestures carefully, crossing yourself when he does, bowing when appropriate. And here's a curious fact. You probably believe that simply seeing the host, the consecrated bread, is enough to bless your week. You don't actually take communion most of the time. That's for special occasions, but witnessing it? That counts. There's music too. Not choirs like you're imagining, but plainchant. Long, droning, hypnotic. It echoes through the nave. Like wind through a cave. You don't understand the words, but it doesn't matter. The sound alone feels holy. Or at the very least, it helps you stay awake. Sort of. And here's something they never tell you. People talked during church. Whispered. Passed babies around, giggled, picked at their nails. You weren't always on your best behavior. Church was serious, yes, but it was also social. A chance to see everyone in one place. A time to exchange news, to flirt. To stare at your crush for 2 solid hours under the guise of piety. After Mass, you step outside, blinking into the sun. Bells still echo behind you, and the square is buzzing. This is when announcements are made. Marriages, births, deaths, disputes. Someone's pig got loose again. Someone else is accused of stealing wool. A traveling friar stands on a barrel, shouting about sin and penance and the need to donate to the construction of a new chapel. He says it'll have stained glass. No one believes him. And then the real fun starts, because Sunday is also market day. Vendors open carts and tents. There's fresh bread, salted fish, ale, turnips, dried herbs, and, if you're lucky, a rare piece of fruit. Apples are a treat. Oranges? Exotic, expensive, probably reserved for the Lord's table. But someone's selling ribbons. Someone else has carved wooden toys. And there, in the corner, an old woman is offering miracle potions that smell suspiciously like vinegar and mint. You browse, you barter. You trade gossip more than goods, and just when you're settling into the rhythm of the day, someone starts playing a hurdy-gurdy. Yes, that's a real thing. It's like a mechanical violin played with a crank. And it's as strange as it sounds. But it draws a crowd. Soon someone's drumming on a pot. Kids are dancing, old folks are clapping. And someone breaks into a bawdy ballad about a monk, a duck, and a tavern maid. The priest glares. No one stops. This is joy. Raw, raucous, necessary. And that's the strange truth of the Middle Ages. For all the misery, the fear, the back-breaking work, people laughed. They celebrated. They found time, in between the shadows, for music, movement, and mischief. Even the nobility sometimes mingled on days like this, though at a safe distance. You might glimpse a knight squire showing off, or a noblewoman, on horseback, her gown glittering, her gaze aloof. You watch her ride by, wondering what her life must be like. You imagine silk sheets and roasted pheasant, not realizing she's probably wondering what your life is like. Simple, free of court politics, unburdened by marriage alliances and embroidery needles. Perspective, huh? And just when you think the day might pass without incident, you spot something unusual, a stranger, cloaked, standing near the edge of the square, watching. You can't tell if it's a pilgrim, a merchant, or something else, but their gaze is sharp, not threatening, just observant, like they know something you don't. You blink and they're gone. You ask someone nearby, "Did you see the traveler in the red hood?" They shake their head. No one like that came through here today. Weird. But there's no time to dwell. The sun is lowering again, and Sunday or not, there are still animals to feed, fires to rekindle, and cloaks to mend before Monday arrives like a bucket of cold water to the face. You walk home slowly, belly full of stew and barley ale, head spinning with song, story, and the faint image of that red cloak. Tomorrow will be hard. But tonight you'll dream in Latin. Your dreams are odd. They twist around like vines, flickers of chanting, the smell of smoke, that red cloak from the square, and somehow a talking goat who insists on reciting psalms. You wake with a jolt before sunrise, confused, blanket. Tangled, drool on your chin. Welcome back. It's Monday. There's no such thing as dreading Mondays in your world because, let's face it, you never stopped working to begin with. But something about this day feels heavier. Maybe it's the aching in your shoulders from yesterday's dancing, or the faint guilt from giggling during the priest's sermon, or maybe it's the fact that today is laundry day. Now, modern you might be picturing a machine and a detergent pod and 30 minutes of passive waiting. That is adorable. Here, laundry is a full-day, full-body sport, and it usually starts before the sun is properly up. First, you gather your family's linens, shirts, under-tunics, stockings, bed sheets. They're stiff with dirt and soaked in the scent of sweat, smoke, and whatever mystery stew spilled on them last week. You bundle them up and head to the washing place. Depending on where you live, that could mean the edge of a stream, a shallow basin near the village well, or a big wooden tub in someone's backyard. Either way, it involves cold water, lye soap and elbow grease, lots of elbow grease. You dunk the fabric, scrub it against a wooden board or a flat stone, beat it with a stick, twist it dry, rinse, repeat. Your fingers go numb, your back protests. Your legs cramp. It's like CrossFit, except your reward is slightly cleaner socks and a permanent dampness that never really goes away. And the smell, let's just say medieval soap is not lavender-scented. Soap was made from animal fat and lye, often homemade. Some households added herbs to mask the scent, rosemary, marjoram, or even chamomile if they were feeling fancy, but most didn't. Bother. You wash in what smells like boiled pig and sadness. Still, there's something weirdly meditative about the whole process. You talk with the other women scrubbing beside you, swap stories, complain about your in-laws. Someone sings. Someone else teaches a girl how to spot lice eggs in her hair. It's gross, it's necessary. It's bonding. And here's the kicker. You don't wash your outer garments every week, not even close. Most people owned 1 or 2 outfits at best, and those were precious. Washing wore fabric down faster, so it was reserved for underlinens. The things that actually touched your skin. That outer cloak you've been wearing for 3 seasons straight. Just air it out and hope for the best. Oh, and underwear. Technically, yes, but not the kind you're used to. Linen brays for men. Long shifts for women. No elastic, no lace, just cloth, and plenty of chafing. Once the laundry is done, and it takes hours, you hang it to dry on lines or bushes or even low tree branches, and hope a goat doesn't eat it. Then comes the other Monday joy, medicine, because if anyone in your household is sick, and let's be honest, someone is always sick, now's the time to try and fix it. You reach for your herbal remedy book, passed down through generations, filled with ink blots and questionable drawings. You mash garlic and honey into a paste for coughs. You boil nettle tea for joint pain. You press mustard seeds into a cloth and bind it to a swollen foot. If the fever won't break, you might even try cupping, lighting a fire in a small glass, to draw out the bad humors. Sounds dramatic? Sure. But in a world without germ theory, without antibiotics, humorism is king. You believe your body has 4 humors: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. And illness comes from imbalance. Feeling sluggish. You've got too much phlegm. Depressed, that's excess black bile. The solution: adjust your food, purge your system, maybe even get leeched. Yes, leeches. You keep a few in a jar near the hearth, just in case. You've named one of them. Is it weird? Yes. Does it kind of work? Also yes, but mostly by accident. Even childbirth, the most dangerous moment in a woman's life, is handled with a mixture of ritual, herbs, and pure stubbornness. Midwives are trusted and experienced, but their tools are basic. They use wine to numb, prayers to calm, and sometimes a carved birthing amulet to hang over the bed. If the baby's slow to cry, they slap it, shake it, or blow gently in its face. And the mothers, tougher than iron. They go through it all without anesthesia, often while everyone else just keeps living around them. Someone's giving birth in the back room while the front is full of kids practicing Latin hymns and chickens running underfoot. It's chaos. It's bravery. It's Tuesday now, because Monday blurred past like water over stones. You lie down that night, arms aching from laundry, head filled with ginger and vinegar and old chants. Somewhere outside, an owl hoots again. Or maybe it's the goat from your dream back for round 2. You pull the blanket up to your chin, feel the scratch of straw beneath your shoulder blades, and let your eyes drift shut. Because tomorrow's even stranger. The rooster crows before dawn. Again, you swear it's earlier every morning like it's trying to win some kind of barnyard competition. You grumble, roll over, and nearly fall off your straw mattress. The floor is cold. Your feet are colder. And today your joints crack like old wood. Congratulations, you've woken up in winter. Medieval winters are brutal. There's no central heating, no electric blanket, no hot coffee waiting in the kitchen. Your only source of warmth. A tiny hearth fire that barely made it through the night, and the collective body heat of everyone crammed into the room. You shuffle over to the hearth, stir the embers, and coax the flames back to life with twigs and a prayer. You huddle near it, trying not to breathe too deeply. The smoke is thick and there's no chimney, just a hole in the ceiling. If it's windy, the smoke doesn't go up. It comes back down, into your eyes, your lungs, your very soul. There's no such thing as a lazy morning in winter. You've got to get moving or you'll freeze. So you wrap a wool cloak around your shoulders, it smells faintly of mutton and mildew, and head outside. The cold hits you like a slap. The sky is a washed-out grey, the ground hard and slippery with frost. Your breath clouds in front of you, and your boots crunch over frozen earth. You're heading to the communal bakehouse. Here's something you didn't expect. Most medieval households don't have ovens. They're expensive, dangerous, and require serious fuel. So the village uses a shared oven, often run by the local lord or a designated baker. You bring your prepared dough marked with a personal symbol and slide it in when it's your turn. You carry your dough under a cloth, coarsely mixed by lamplight the night before with barley, rye, and maybe a little wheat if it's been a good season. It's heavy, dense, and about as fluffy as a brick, but it's warm and that counts for something. While you wait for the bread to bake, you rub your hands together and chat with others. Bread time is gossip time. You hear who's ill, who's pregnant, whose goat ran off with the neighbors. Laundry, and then the village reeve appears. Now the reeve is basically a medieval mix of mall cop, tax collector, and your least favorite group project leader. He's in charge of local order, reporting to the lord of the manor and ensuring everything runs the way it's supposed to, which, spoiler, it rarely does. Today he's inspecting winter stores. You follow the murmurs of concern as people shuffle toward their homes, because winter is where survival gets dicey. The food gathered in autumn, grains, salted meats, dried beans, turnips, onions, garlic, has to last until spring. There's no supermarket backup plan. If you run out, you starve. You lead the reeve to your storage cellar. Really just a pit with boards and straws, and open it. He peers in, grunts, makes a note on a wax tablet. You smile politely, even though he once fined your uncle for stealing firewood from the wrong forest. This is how it goes. Everything is permissioned. Want to gather kindling? There's a rule. Want to fish in the river? Another rule. Want to mill grain? Pay a fee. Use the bakehouse? Another fee. The lord of the manor owns everything. The land, the forest, the animals on it. You are a tenant, a worker, a participant in a system that's been running for centuries, and it works. Mostly. But here's the twist. Some lords are decent. They host feasts on holy days, forgive debts during hard years, and even join village celebrations. Others, not so much. Tax-happy, land-grabby, and dangerously fond of hunting parties that trample your cabbage patch. Still, feudalism has its rhythm. You work, the Lord protects, the church watches. And when the system doesn't completely fall apart, you make it through the winter, sort of. You head back inside. The bread is ready, hot, crusty, fragrant. You tear off a chunk and let the steam warm your fingers. It's not sweet, it's not soft, but it's satisfying. Survival always is. By afternoon, snow starts to fall, light at first, then thick. The sky goes from pale grey to deep pewter, and your world is muffled. Sound fades. Footsteps become whispers. The village looks like a painting, but beauty can't distract from the chill. You check on the animals, pile more straw in the pig pen, and scatter feed for the chickens who now strut through the snow like they own it. One of them pecks your ankle. Thanks, Susan. Evening creeps in early. The fire is stoked high. The walls creak. Your bones ache. And tonight, just as the stew starts to bubble and your fingers begin to thaw, someone knocks at the door. It's a messenger. Wrapped in a thick fur-lined cloak, he carries a sealed letter. Not for you. You can't read, after all. But for your father. It's from the manor steward summoning him to speak with the Lord tomorrow. No reason given, which is never a good sign. You help your father prep a clean tunic, re-oil his boots, and remind him not to mention the incident with the fence. He nods, but his face is tight. Quiet. That night, you lie awake longer than usual. Outside, the snow thickens. The wind whistles through the cracks in the wood. Somewhere in the dark, the owl hoots again. Or maybe it's not the owl. Maybe it's that stranger, the one with the red cloak, the one who seems to appear when things are just a little too quiet. You don't sleep well. Something about the way the wind taps against the shutters keeps you half awake, floating between thoughts and dreams. The fire died down hours ago, and cold seeps through your blanket like an unwelcome memory. In the early dark, your father slips out, tunic stiff with cold, boots echoing softly on the frozen earth. You pretend to still be asleep, but you hear him whisper goodbye. He thinks you're too tired to notice. You're not. When the sky finally begins to grey, you rise. Slowly, stiffly. You touch the spot on the bench where your father sat. Still, faintly warm. Then instinctively you move to start the fire, fetch water, check on the animals. But something's off. The village feels quieter than usual. Not in the peaceful way, in the way that makes your neck tingle. Then you hear it. A bell far off, metallic, urgent. Not a church bell, a summons bell. You drop your bucket. People are gathering near the edge of the road, murmuring, breath misting in the cold. A rider just arrived, cloak soaked in melting snow, horse trembling from exertion. He bears a crest no one recognizes. Even the reeve looks unsure. The messenger dismounts. Says something in a low voice. You can't catch the words, but you catch the expression on the reeve's face. Alarm. You drift closer, pretending to be part of a crowd you're too young, too poor, too invisible to truly belong to. And then you hear it. The king is raising levies. Someone gasps. Another curses. That's how it goes in a feudal system. When war brews, the king calls on the lords, who call on their stewards, who call on their reeves, who call on you. Peasants. Carters, villains. You don't choose to go. You don't get paid much. You certainly don't get armor. But you go or you're punished. The war isn't here yet. It's across the border. Some dispute over land or marriage or insult. But still, everyone feels it. War doesn't stay politely where it starts. It seeps and it changes things. Later, your father returns from the manor, face pale. He doesn't say much, just sits down, stares at the hearth. Finally he speaks. They want someone from each household. You blink. But you can't fight. He nods. I'm not going. The silence after that is sharp, because it means you might have to. You're not a soldier. You don't even own a decent knife, but neither do half the people who get conscripted. If the Lord's men come with parchment and seal, you can't argue. You go where they send you. Suddenly, everything mundane feels precious. You help your mother make pottage that night, slow and careful, savoring the rhythm of chopping leeks, stirring slowly. You listen to the crackle of fire, the cluck of the sleepy hens. You sharpen a wooden stick to chase away foxes. You smile at Susan the chicken, who is still absolutely evil. Life is normal. In that way, life often is, right before it changes. The next day, the reeve comes by again, this time to post notices. One reads, "Any man of age and able body must present himself to the manor by week's end. You're 16, you've lifted grain sacks since you were 8. You qualify." Your friends whisper in corners, voices taut with fear and excitement. Some want glory, others want coin. Most just want to survive. One boy brags about killing 3 rats in one night and says he's ready to take on the French. Everyone groans. The adults worry quietly. They know better. They've seen war come and go, not in great sweeping arcs, but in little ruptures. Fields burned, carts broken, sons lost. Meanwhile, the church reacts too. The priest holds a special sermon. He talks about duty, about the righteousness of defending one's kingdom, about the sinful nature of cowardice. And then, as always, he pivots to hellfire, just in case you were too cozy with the idea of dying. But some of the older parishioners remember the last war. They remember the plague that followed, the bandits, the winter that came too early. Their faces say what the priest won't: death is never tidy. That night you help a neighbor fix his roof. You trade your last chunk of salted pork for a handful of dried apples. You walk down to the stream, skim pebbles across the surface, and feel a strange peace settle in. And then you see it again. The red cloak, same figure, same distant posture. You stare, heart thudding. It turns slightly. Not toward you, just enough. The hood shifts, and for a second you think you see your own face beneath it, but that's impossible. You blink. It's gone. You return home shaken, not sure if what you saw was real or just the creeping edge of worry, shaping your fears into something tangible. Your dreams that night are full of smoke and marching feet. In one, you're walking across a field of mud under a sky full of crows. You're carrying a sword. It's too heavy. It's yours. Morning arrives with a hush. Not a peaceful one, but the kind where everyone is awake early, pretending they're not. You can feel the tension baked into the air, like the village is holding its breath, waiting for something to break. You try to focus on routine. You muck out the stalls, feed the animals, collect eggs. Susan tries to bite your hand again because of course she does. The pottage from last night has hardened into a cold, gluey lump. You eat it anyway, because today is the levy registration. By mid-morning, the manor gates are open. A long table has been set up in the courtyard, where the steward and 2 scribes sit with parchment, quills, and a very large, very dramatic-looking seal. A priest stands nearby with a Bible, either for blessings or guilt trips, it's unclear. You and half the village are lined up like cattle. One by one, names are called. Men step forward, most nervously, a few too confidently. Each swears fealty, is measured by eye, literally, and then branded with a mark of service, not a tattoo. A cloth band tied around the arm. But the meaning is clear. Your property now, your turn comes. They ask your name, your age, if you can handle a spear. You answer honestly. You're not trying to impress anyone. You just want to get it over with. The steward barely glances, up before nodding to the scribe. Fit. The priest mumbles a prayer over you. You're handed a dull brown armband. The cloth is scratchy. It smells like dust and sweat. That's it. You're going to war. Eventually. See, here's the weird part most people forget. Medieval armies didn't march the second they were assembled. It could take weeks or months before you actually left. Armies were expensive. Kings hesitated. Supplies lagged. And sometimes, peace was declared before you ever reached the front. But you couldn't count on that, so you train, if training is the right word. You meet with the other conscripts in the field behind the village. A retired soldier, or someone claiming to be, teaches you how to hold a pike and form a line. There's no armor, no swords, just long wooden poles, clumsy hands, and a lot of yelling. Your instructor, Walter, is missing 3 fingers and half a nose. He smells like onions and bad decisions, but he can still hit a tree stump with an axe from 10 paces, and he teaches you how to march without tripping over your own feet, so you respect him. Kind of. When you're not drilling, you're preparing. You're D. Mother sews an extra pair of socks. Your father sharpens a small blade and presses it into your palm. For cutting rope, he says, but his eyes say something else. You wonder if you'll ever see them again. And just when it starts to feel real, the steward posts an announcement. All conscripts to depart in 4 days. The village shifts, you can feel it. People are kinder. Food is shared more freely. Even the reeve offers you a nod of respect, or what counts as one from him. Someone plays a lute by the fire. Old stories are told, the kinds that make people laugh and cry and remember who they were before fear crept in. And then that night you hear it again, that bell, but this time it's not a summons, it's a warning. You throw on your cloak and rush outside. People are gathering. You follow the sound, down the path past the bakehouse beyond the fields, to the stream, to what's floating in it. A body, not a villager. Someone dressed in finer clothing, dark, soaked, pale as bone. Someone from the manor. The reeve arrives. Muttering curses. The priest stares grimly. The steward shows up soon after, red-faced and shouting, because this isn't just a death. It's a message. The body bears a sigil. The same crest the strange messenger wore, the one who brought news of the levy. There's something carved into the man's hand, too. Not a wound, a symbol, a circle. Crossed, old, familiar, unsettling. Someone says the word heretics, and suddenly the war doesn't feel so far away anymore. You return home shaken. The training continues, but now with urgency. Suspicion blooms. People watch one another more closely. The priest delivers extra sermons, fire and brimstone this time. A few families disappear overnight. No one talks about it. But you do notice that the red-cloaked figure hasn't shown up since the body appeared. You wonder if that's a good sign, and or a very bad one. In the days before departure, you sleep little. Eat less. Your dreams are thick with fog, whispering voices, and a sense that something's coming. Not war, not exactly. Something stranger, something older. And the night before you're set to leave, your father hands you something wrapped in cloth, a small wooden token, carved with the same circle-cross symbol. It was your grandfather's, he says quietly. He said it would keep you safe. You stare at it. You're not sure if he's right, but you keep it anyway. Your feet ache before the sun even rises. You carry more than you thought possible. A sack with hard bread, a flask of watered ale, the little wooden token wrapped in cloth, and your nervous heart beating far too loud in your chest. You're not the only one. The whole group of you, about 30 from your village and the next 2 over, gathers at the old Roman road just past the chapel. Some weep, others hum softly. One man keeps cracking his knuckles like it might hold the fear at bay. Walter, your instructor, is already there, chewing something leathery. Maybe it's actual leather. He gives you all a once-over and says, "Try not to die, stupid." And that's the closest thing you'll get to a pep talk. The journey begins. You march, slowly. The road winds past frozen fields, sheep huddled tight against the cold. You pass travelers, some friendly, some not. A monk with a donkey nods. At you solemnly. A woman in a bright blue cloak offers apples. One boy from your group accepts them and promptly gets sick. Lesson learned. Never trust brightly colored fruit during wartime. After 2 days, you reach the mustering camp, a chaotic sprawl of tents, carts, livestock, and men. It stinks of sweat and wet wool and the pungent anxiety of people who've been waiting too long with not enough to do. You're given a place in a shared tent. It leaks. At night, you huddle together for warmth, listening to others snore, mutter, or cry softly when they think no one can hear. The food is bad, the beds are worse, and the lice are immediate. Still, there's something electric in the air. The idea that you're part of something bigger, that you're in a place where history happens, and history, by the way, smells terrible. The camp is where you meet people from all over the kingdom, farm boys, apprentices, the occasional disgraced. Noble son pretending to be humble. They share stories, swap lies, and play dice with carved bones. Someone even teaches you how to swear in 4 languages, none of which you'll repeat near your mother. One night, by the communal fire, an older man named Aidan tells a strange tale. Back in the last war, he rasps, some men marched to battle and came back. Wrong. Said they saw a hill split open and a woman made of flame walk out. Said she sang in Latin. Said they followed her for days. Everyone laughs, but not you, because something about that story feels familiar. You dream of hills that night, and flame, and a song you almost remember. The days pass in a haze of drills and waiting. You're issued a tunic, itchy and too short, and a battered helmet that smells of pickled onions. Your spear is splintered, but at least it's real wood this time. Then finally the announcement comes. We march at dawn. Your stomach drops, not because you're afraid, although you are, but because deep down something feels wrong, like this isn't the battle you were meant to fight. The next morning is quiet. No fanfare, no speeches, Just the crunch of boots on frost-hardened earth and the wheezing of overloaded carts. The army stretches out along the road like a living snake, winding its way through forest and field toward a border most of you have never seen. You walk all day. At night, you sleep beneath trees, the stars sharp above you. One evening, as you lie awake, you hear whispers in the woods. Not animal sounds. Not wind words. You rise slowly, gripping your small blade, more comfort than weapon, and slip toward the sound. There, a figure. Red cloak. Still, watching. You step closer. It doesn't move. Then, slowly, it raises a hand, not to wave, to point, toward. A fork in the path behind the camp, one you hadn't noticed before. You blink. It's gone again. You're not sure what wakes you the next morning, your own thoughts, or the fact that the world feels quieter, off-kilter. Walter stumbles into camp with blood on his sleeve. We lost the forward scouts. No one speaks. He doesn't explain how, just mutters, "Not animals," and walks away. That day, everything changes. The officers argue. The men whisper. You begin hearing a word passed around, quietly like a secret prayer, the hollow. No one explains what it means, just that we're marching near it, that we should avoid it, that bad things happened there. Once. Of course, no one agrees what bad things means. Some say an army vanished. Others say a church was swallowed by the earth. One man insists his cousin saw monks bleeding from their eyes there. As you walk past a cluster of bent trees, you spot another symbol, carved low on a trunk, half hidden in moss. Circle. Crossed. You. Don't mention it. That night the fog rolls in, thick, damp. Heavy enough to muffle sound and soak your clothes in minutes. And in that quiet, you hear something, just once, and that makes your blood chill. Footsteps, but not from your camp, from the woods. And not just one pair. Dozens, marching in sync. You strain to see through the fog, but it's like looking through milk. You clutch the token your father gave you and whisper a prayer you're not sure you believe in. When morning comes, the fog is gone, but so are 6 men. Vanished. No signs of struggle. No tracks, just gone. The commander shrugs and mutters something about deserters, but Walter shakes his head. They didn't run, he says. They followed something. No one speaks. The march continues, and suddenly you're not just afraid of dying. You're afraid of where you might die and of what's waiting there. Find how the rhythm of marching has invaded your bones. You wake up walking, dream of your feet scraping along packed dirt, and fall asleep with your legs twitching like they're still trying to keep pace. But something's changed. The others feel it too. Even the loud ones, the ones who used to joke about lice and latrines. Now their voices are quieter. Eyes dart more often. Some clutch little charms, carved saints, bits of string tied in patterns. You're not sure if it's for luck or protection, or if there's even a difference anymore, because on the 6th night the sky turns red, not the rosy blush of a sunset. No, this is a deeper crimson, like the clouds themselves are bleeding. You stare up with the rest of the men, faces glowing with eerie light. Someone mutters, "A sign." Another hisses, "Shut up." Walter just spits and says, "We're getting close." And then he adds softer, "Too close." The next morning no one speaks at breakfast, the bread is moldy, the ale's run out, and the birds have stopped singing. That's when you realize it's not quiet. It's silent. Not just the forest. The whole world. No breeze, no rustling, not even the buzzing of flies. It's like the land itself is holding its breath. You march through that stillness until the road narrows and begins to dip. That's when someone says it, just loud enough for everyone to hear. This is the hollow. You feel it before you see it. A low scooped valley sunken into the earth like a bowl left behind by a giant. Trees line the rim like a crown, gnarled, leaning inward, as if listening. And in the center of the hollow, ruins. Stone, blackened, and broken. A chapel, a manor. It's hard to tell. Whatever it once was, it's now nothing but cracked foundations and jagged outlines. But here's the thing. The fog never really left. It still clings here, curling around the ruins like a possessive hand. And in the center you see it, a monolith, tall, slender, carved with strange markings that shimmer ever so slightly, like heat haze on stone. It hums. You can't hear it with your ears exactly, but your bones know. Your skin tightens, like you're standing near something too loud, too ancient, to ever make sense. The captain orders the camp to halt. No one complains. You're told to dig. Not for graves, thankfully, for trenches, barriers. Just in case, he says. In case of what, exactly? No one asks. That night, you draw the short straw for watch duty. Lucky you. You sit near the edge of the hollow, spear planted in the ground beside you, your breath steaming in the cold. And after some time, you're not sure how long, you hear it again. The footsteps. Not loud, not fast. Just steady, purposeful. You grip your spear and rise. They come from the trees. You stare hard, trying to pierce the dark. Your eyes adjust, and you see a figure. Just one, walking along the tree line, cloaked in red. Again. You should be used to this by now, but tonight they stop. They turn toward you and speak. You don't hear it like normal speech. It's in your mind, a whisper scraping against your thoughts, like claws against wet bark. You brought them here. Your knees nearly buckle. You try to shout, but no sound comes. The figure raises a hand, points again. Not at you, at the monolith. Then, like a gust of wind through a candle, they vanish. You collapse. In the morning, no one believes you, except Walter. He just stares at you with hollow eyes and says, "You saw her, didn't you?" "Who's her?" you croak. He doesn't answer. Instead, he shows you something. His arm, the cloth armband is gone. In its place, a mark burned into the skin, a circle with a cross, just like the token in your bag, just like the symbol carved into that dead man's hand. You ask what it means. Walter says only, "It means we're not here by accident." Before you can press further, a horn blows. 3 sharp blasts. Enemy nearby. Everyone scrambles. Weapons drawn. Armor fastened. The camp becomes a flurry of movement. But when the scouts return, breathless and pale, they have no stories of soldiers or ambushes, only a report. There's no enemy, not anymore. You're marched out in a tight group, flanked by officers, down into the hollow. You pass the edge of the ruins. Closer now, the monolith's markings pulse faintly, like embers. In a dying fire, and then you see them. Dozens of bodies, no wounds, no blood, just stillness. As if something reached inside them and turned them off like lamps. Their faces are peaceful, too peaceful. The captain stammers. The priest clutches his cross. And somewhere, deep in your chest, something tugs. You're supposed to be scared. But instead, you feel like you've seen this before, in a dream, no. In a memory, the red figure, the mark, the hollow. You've been here before, not you, but someone like you. Someone who followed the song. They try to seal the hollow. It's almost funny, watching soldiers drag logs and stones trying to build a wall around something older than memory, like nailing a window shut to keep out a storm that started before wood existed. But fear makes people practical. The captain gives new orders. Double watches, no one alone, prayers twice a day. You're assigned to torch duty, patrolling the perimeter at night with a firebrand and instructions to wave it like it'll help. It doesn't. The fog still creeps in, still brushes against your cheeks with fingers that feel almost human. And the monolith hums louder now, still silent but undeniable. You feel it even when you sleep, especially when you sleep, because the dreams are back, stronger. You see a battlefield, not this one, but older, wrapped in snow and silence. Figures locked in place as if frozen mid-motion. A red cloak fluttering among them, and always the same voice. You brought them here, but it's changing now, adding something. You brought them here. Now take them back. Take who back? One night you wake up gasping. The mark on your father's token is glowing, faint but real. You rush to Walter's tent. He's already awake. "Yeah," he says. "It started last night for me too." You ask him what's happening, what this is. He looks tired, older than before. "I was at Falkridge," he says. 20 years ago we found a pit, not like this, but close. Same symbols, same dreams." You wait. He won't meet your eyes. "We tried to bury it, thought we had." You ask what happened to the others. He shrugs. "They stopped dreaming." Or maybe they never woke up. I don't know. You don't sleep that night. The next day, the wind changes, cold, sharp, sudden, like someone opened a door between here and somewhere much worse. It carries whispers that only some of you hear. Men begin arguing with shadows. One bites off a chunk of his own finger and doesn't notice. The priest tries to hold a mass. Only 5 show up. That night, the red figure returns. You see them again, just outside camp. This time, they're not alone. There are more of them. 6. Maybe 7, you can't tell. They flicker like candlelight in fog. Some tall, some twisted, all cloaked in that impossible red. You raise your weapon, it's heavy, laughably useless, and yet they don't attack. They watch, and then they move, not toward you, but toward the monolith. You follow, quietly, heart hammering. They circle it. One by one, they kneel. And as they do, you hear a sound, not from them, from the stone. A note, low, long, like a flute made from bone. It vibrates your teeth, your spine. The red figures bow their heads. Then, one by one, they sink into the ground. No screams, no light, just gone. Swallowed by the dirt like water down a drain. When it ends, you're alone, and the monolith, it's cracked. A long, thin line running down one side. You stumble back to camp, shaking. You try to tell someone, anyone, but no one listens. They're too busy digging graves. More men have vanished, 2 found in the trees, curled into fetal positions, faces serene. 3 more, simply missing. The captain no longer shouts. The priest has locked himself in his tent. Walter? He's gone. No one saw him leave, just his spear planted upright near the ruins, with a small circle carved into the ground beside it. You sit beside the fire that night, surrounded by strangers who were comrades a week ago. You watch the flames, dance and wonder what it means to follow something that doesn't want to be understood. And then the worst part happens. Silence again. But this time, it's not just the woods. It's inside you. No thoughts, no breath, just a stillness that stretches for eternity. Until... Take them back, the voice returns. This time, not in a dream. It comes from the monolith. No one else hears it. But you do. Clear as a bell made of teeth. Take them back. You are the door. You drop your cup, it rolls into the fire, no one notices, because every eye in the camp is fixed on the sky, where the stars are moving. You look up, and it's true. They're not twinkling. They're shifting, slowly, like they've slipped their moorings, rearranging into patterns that feel almost familiar. One soldier begins to sob. Another starts laughing and doesn't stop. You see the mark again, on your arm now. Not burned, not drawn, just there, the red circle, the cross, glowing faintly beneath your skin. You cover it. Someone beside you asks, "Do you think we'll get home?" You don't answer, because the truth is, you're not sure what home means anymore, or if it ever existed. You're dreaming again. Only now the dream doesn't feel like yours. You're standing in the hollow, but it's not ruined, it's alive, lush. The monolith is unbroken, taller, gleaming like polished obsidian in the moonlight. Around it, people dance, slow, solemn, robed in red, arms raised to the sky. They chant a name. It doesn't sound like words, it sounds like thunder trying to whisper. You try to join them. You lift your foot, and the vision shatters. You're in your cot, drenched. In sweat, your breath ragged, and the whisper still lingers behind your teeth like an aftertaste. You are the door. That phrase follows you all day, as you dress, as you eat what counts for food. Dried meat, stale bread, cold water with bits of moss. You catch your reflection in a dented bit of metal and see the red mark pulsing faintly under your collarbone. No one talks anymore. The camp is a graveyard before the graves. The captain's tent is empty, so is the priest's. Just their armor and robes left behind, folded like they evaporated. No struggle, no blood, just absence. By evening, only a handful of you remain. Some are trying to pray, some are packing quietly, and you're walking, not away, toward the monolith. You don't know why. But your legs move with certainty, like they remember something your mind has forgotten. As you pass the outer ring of trees, the air grows thick, like walking through syrup. Every breath is slow, deliberate. Your heartbeat echoes in your ears, and then you're there. The hollow is quiet. The stone looms. The crack is wider now. From it, faint red light spills, and not bright but deep, like the color of embers buried under ash. You reach out, your fingers hover above it, then press. The stone is warm, pulsing, like a heartbeat. Suddenly, memories flood in, but they aren't yours. Boy running through forest centuries ago. A woman weeping over a bound book of names. A king, faceless, carving the red symbol into his throne. A plague. A burning city. 1,000 hands lifted to the sky in terror and awe. And through it, all the same song, the same phrase, you are the door. You stumble back, but now you understand. The mark isn't a curse, it's a key. You weren't cursed to come here, you were summoned. Because something is waking beneath the monolith. Something older than war, older than kings. Not evil, not divine, just hungry. And you're not just here to watch, you're here to open. You fall to your knees, not in prayer, in understanding. That's when the ground shakes, not like an earthquake, more like something breathing. A deep, slow inhale that pulls the trees inward, makes your skin prickle. You look up. The stars are no longer in constellations. They've formed an eye. Not metaphorically, literally. An iris, a pupil, slowly blinking open across the entire night sky. And when it opens fully, you hear the sound. A voice deeper than thought, layered with every language ever spoken. It says one word, your name. Except, it's not your name as you know it. It's older, like hearing your soul's name spoken. Aloud, you scream or think you do, but no sound comes, just wind, whipping around you, tugging at your clothes, pulling you forward, toward the monolith. You try to resist. You can't. Your feet move, not by your command, by something older inside you. You reach the stone again. The crack now glows like a furnace. You place your hand inside. It doesn't burn, it welcomes. And suddenly you're not in the hollow anymore, you're beneath it or beyond it. A place with no up or down, just darkness. Endless echoing. You see others here, figures cloaked in red. Some turn to you, their faces, shifting, melting, becoming your face. Walter's face, the captain's, your father's. One reaches toward you and says, the door remembers. Another says, the hollow is not a place, it's a threshold. You ask what lies on the other side. They smile, not cruelly, not kindly, just knowingly, and say, that's for you to decide. When you open your eyes, you're standing at the edge of the camp. The monolith is gone, so is the hollow. Just open field now, the others are stirring. Groggy, confused, you check your chest. The mark, gone. In its place, a faint scar. You look up. The stars are back in their places. Normal, boring, you breathe. The priest walks out of his tent, yawns, and complains about the cold. The captain is shouting about rations again. Walter offers you bread. No, one remembers except you. You look down at your hand, still faintly warm, still remembering. You don't speak of the hollow again, how could you? No one remembers, not the red figures, not the dreams, not the stone that hummed like a buried lung. The men go back to gambling and complaining. The priest gives sermons about mold. The captain starts yelling about shovel inventory, and you learn to nod, to eat, to smile even. But something has changed. There's a silence now deep inside you. Not empty, not void, but waiting. You carry on. Orders come. You march. You camp. You clean mud from your boots and pretend to care about the quality of socks. You send one letter home, but halfway through writing it, you realize you don't remember your mother's face. So you stop. Fold it. Never send it. Weeks pass, and sometimes when you're alone, you catch glimpses of it. In puddles, in mirrors, in the shine of metal, the red, the shimmer of something just behind your shoulder, watching or maybe remembering, because memory works differently now. Some nights, you hear your name in the wind, not the name they gave you, the real one, the old one, the one you don't. Want to say out loud, and you know the hollow is still with you. Not a place, a direction, not a ruin. A choice. You start seeing signs. A village child humming the same melody you heard in the dreams. A crow perched on a church steeple with one white eye, always watching. A carving behind a market stall, the symbol, clear and deliberate, traced. By someone else's shaking hand, Walter never comes back, but you find his spear one morning, outside your tent. No one saw who left it. No one seems to know who Walter is. You don't ask again. Because you're starting to understand, everyone is walking toward a hollow. Some are just faster than others. Some carry maps. You carry a key. You don't know when, but someday you'll be called again. The scar will burn. The wind will whisper, the stars will shift, and you'll go not with fear but with memory. Because now you know what the hollow truly is. It's the moment before a question is asked. The edge of breath before a truth is spoken. It's the space between heartbeat and word. It's the choice to open a door, or to close it behind you forever. And one night, years from now maybe, when you feel the warmth in your hand again, when the world grows too quiet, when your dreams begin singing, you'll rise, quietly, gently, and walk without a sound. Back to the place that remembers, back to the space beneath the world, back to where the stars once called your name. And when you reach the threshold, when you stand once more at the skin between worlds, you will lift your hand and speak the name that was always yours, and the door will open, softly, completely, without fear, because you are the door, and you are ready. The night fades now. Slowly, the wind hushes itself, the stars ease back into their beds. You lie there, still your breath soft, your heart quiet. There is no more hollow now, only the warm dark behind your eyes, the long dream that waits beyond memory. Let it carry you. Let the silence unfold like a blanket across your chest. Let the questions fall. Away one by one like old leaves in morning fog. There is no more to see, no more to know. Just this stillness, and you, floating in it, like a name no one remembers, but everyone knows. Sleep now. You are safe. You are home. You are the door.